The time is 6 p.m. If you would please give your attention to the emergency evacuation procedures.
Before we get started, let me read the emergency evacuation procedures. In the event of an emergency evacuation, an alarm will sound. Everyone should exit the building by way of the nearest stairwell in a safe and effective manner. If the nearest stairwell is blocked by smoke, use the other stairwell. Do not use the elevator. Once you have reached the main floor, follow the exit signs to exit the building and quickly proceed away from the building. Please be mindful of others evacuating and of emergency vehicles.
At this time, would the members please register your presence by voting yes?
You have 19 present, 2 absent. You have a quorum.
19 present, 2 absent. Commissioner Birchfield's sons playing the regional all-stars tonight. If they are successful, they will go to the state championship. Commissioner Farmer has a conflict in his schedule. At this time, Mr. Clerk, if you'll read the call.
Call for a special meeting of the Blount County Board of Commissioners to be held in room 430 at the Blount County Courthouse, Court Street, Maryville, Tennessee, on Monday, June 30, 2014 at 6 p.m. Pursuant to and in accordance with the authority vested in me by Tennessee Code Annotated, Section 5-5-105, I hereby call the Board of County Commissioners of Blount County, Tennessee, to meet in special session on the 30th day of June, 2014, 6 p.m., to consider and act upon the following. 1. Resolution setting tax rate for the year beginning July 1, 2014, and ending to June 30th, 2015. 2. Resolution making appropriations for the various funds, departments, institutions, offices, and agencies of Blount County, Tennessee for the year beginning July 1, 2014, and ending June 30, 2015.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. At this time, is there anyone in the audience who desires to speak or make comment about either of the resolutions? If you'll come forward and identify yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Linda King. I represent the private sector, District 4. Thank you, Joel Davis of the Daily Times, for educating the public and the county workers on the substantial raises being proposed for our elected bureaucrats who already receive generous wage and benefit packages. Public servant jobs were never meant to provide top-tier wages, and the public sector was never meant to have better benefit entitlements than are prevalent in private business. However, when private citizens speak out against elected officials, padding their pockets with excessive raises, we're taunted and humiliated as though we have no right to express our disgust for out-of-control government. Our budget should not require the use of rainy day fund again this year. Until the situation changes and is corrected, we as the taxpayers of Blount County will continue to speak because we have the right and the duty to do so. Our spending is out of control. It exceeds revenue. However, large raises are still being doled out at the top. If one elected official's increase is causing the domino effect to happen, then the Commission should refuse the 10% salary increase requested in the Circuit Court Clerk's office. The government uses their power to take from our pockets. We certainly have the right to show our disdain for poor management of our money. This Register of Deeds stated that the county employees receive less than union workers. Union employees work for corporations that make a profit with which they can afford to pay wages and benefits. Our government doesn't produce a profit. They just take money from the citizenry. The same elected bureaucrat accused citizens of being against the county workers, while we have routinely stood up for them by stating that the problems exist at the top with the department heads and bureaucrats. Just look at the raises they give to themselves as a good example of self-indulgence. While trying to turn the employees against the private citizens, she spews hatred and covers up the real facts.
Sir, if you'll come forward to introduce yourself. The district in which you live and the item in which you'll be offering comment.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Jim Hinkle. I reside in District 10. I've been attending these commission meetings pretty regular over the last 8 years. And I know our previous mayor, when he first took office, asked all of our department heads to look at their budgets and trim every way possible. And I think all those department heads did so. With the new mayor we have now, his second term, he did the same thing. Again, our department heads responded in every way they possibly could. I know back in 2006, when I first started attending these meetings, our property tax rate was $2.18. Today, it's $2.15. Yes, my property taxes have gone up a little bit, but it's because my property increased in value. It's not because of the property tax rate was raised by this commission. We still have, 2006, we had 58 counties out of 95 who had a higher tax rate than we have in Blount County. Stop the clock. Today, we still have 57 counties, and with 2 that have the same rate that we do, 57 have a higher tax rate. Now, I don't think we can complain about the tax rate. As far as our department heads, our sheriff, our mayor, and so forth, and these county employees that reside and work in this county, providing us everything that we possibly ask for, I think they deserve everything that we can possibly give them. Now, I was raised by my mom and dad for anything I got involved in to try to make it better than you found it. And I'm asking you to do the same tonight. Let's approve this budget and help these people all we possibly can. Thank you.
Anyone else? If you'll come forward, please, introduce yourself. Just a moment, please, till this person's seated. Okay, you're recognized. Thank you.
Tana Monroe, District 7. Mr. Chairman, this budget is shameful. For the last 4 years, this commission has not been able to balance the budget. The first year you raised property tax rate, it did go up. And the last 3 years, to balance the budget, you've robbed the rainy day fund. Now, you can't do that forever. Some questions I have. What are we getting from the Blount partnership? $848,000, one line in the budget. How many of you all have read those contracts? The Tourism Authority. It came out that they were training gas station attendants. Is that an efficient use of taxpayer resources? And this budget, the pay raises for top officials, this looks like hogs feeding at the trough. You have this one saying, well, this one gets this much, so, well, I should get this much more. And this one says, well, this one gets this much, so I should get this much more. You know, this is nothing new. This was going on in the days of Jesus. Public service is supposed to be that, a service. And then in the days of Jesus, he talked about the Gentiles exercising lordship over them. He said, the kings of the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and they that exercise authority upon them call themselves benefactors. But ye shall not be so. But he that is greatest among you, let him be as the younger, and he that is the chief, that he does serve. For whether is greater he that sitteth at meat, or he that beeth the servant? Mr. Chairman, if this is a public service, It sure looks a whole lot like a bunch of Gentiles exercising lordship over each other. Thank you.
Anyone else? If you'll come forward, please. Please identify yourself.
I'm James Lee Barong, the sheriff. I've been here for the last 3 meetings and appealed for an increase, a step increase for my employees. I employ 300 people that work hard 24/7, 365. They do a public service, but they have needs also. I've had 4 people notify me a week ago Monday, as I told the other committee, is quitting. We did a survey which shows the main reason they leave the sheriff's office is monetary reasons. I can't stretch enough or tell you enough how much it costs to retrain an officer, just the basic training. Then you lose the experience. It's devastating to see a lot of these men and women that work for me struggle in a day-to-day life. Then come in and do a public service. Thank you for consideration.
If you'll come forward, ma'am, and identify yourself, please.
I'm Jamie Daly, District 10, and I didn't know that the commission controlled everybody's salary. My understanding is that department heads get cost of living raises for their entire department. Now, does that mean that everyone gets the exact same percent of increase? That is my understanding. I wish we could make it clear to the public how this works, because my understanding is that it's up to the department heads to assign the salaries and evenly in a percentage, using percents and not giving the top ones the large percents and the lower ones none. Also, I want to address, I was studying the budget and it's talking about the public safety projects. I wish our budget could be clearer, because I don't know what this public safety project is, and there's $600,000 in it for vehicles. That makes no sense to me. Is the county commission in charge of assigning driver's license? Is that what this is supposed to be? I understood that was a state thing. I wish the commissioners were allowed to answer questions, because it would make it a lot easier for the public. And the biggest problem we have is the debt. We have got to get this debt down, or we're not going to be able to do anything. I understand that this year, a little more than half of what was paid on the debt was for interest. How many years is it going to take us to pay off this debt? According to the audit, the principal is now $223 million. That's not what our budget says, but that's what the audit says. Thank you.
On Resolution 1406A-013, a resolution fixing the tax levy in Blount County, Tennessee for the year beginning July 1st, 2014. Ms. Lambert moves. Commissioner Carver seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 1406A-013. Commissioner Folks, you're recognized, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Respectfully, we seem to be doing this backwards. We haven't even approved a budget yet, and we're setting a tax rate. Seems like it'd be make a lot more sense to consider the budget first and then set the tax rate.
Commissioner, this is the way the call is written, and if you look over the years, this is the way it's proceeded.
Well, you know, just because we've done it in a kind of a dumb fashion in all years past doesn't mean that we ought to continue that. But go ahead.
Mr. Folks has requested that we take 1406A13 before, 13 after 1406A012. Is there objection? I object. There's been an objection. Commissioner Samples, you're recognized, sir.
I've sat on the budget committee for a long time, and we were always told in the state meetings that you cannot consider a budget until you have considered the total appropriation that you have to divide up. Therefore, you consider the appropriation first. I'm just passing that along.
Mr. Folks, you're recognized.
I'd sure like to have the legal reference to the statute that requires that. I've read them all. I've never found that. Thank you.
Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt Resolution 1406A1013. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 16 yeses and 3 noes.
16 yes, 3 noes. The resolution's adopted. The chair will now stand for a motion on Resolution 1406A012, a resolution making appropriations for the various funds, department, offices, and agencies of Blount County, Tennessee for the year beginning July 1st, 2014 and ending June 30, 2015. Commissioner Samples moves. Is there a second? Second. Commissioner Lambert seconds. The motion is to adopt Resolution 1406A012. Commissioner Burkhalter, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question.
Ask the question.
Through the publications that have led up to this meeting, there's been considerable talk given to the fact that we have pulled money away from the highway department. I do not see anywhere in the appropriation resolution or in the tax rate resolution where it says that we have pulled $200,000 or $400,000 away from the highway department. So if we wanted to give the highway department that money back,
Just a moment.
how do we go about doing that?
Just a moment. Mr. Vineyard, would you please give an explanation?
The earlier submission of the appropriation resolution, I believe, set the highway department budget at $6.3 million. That has been revised in this resolution based upon the information we received from the superintendent's office. And you can see that in the last item of the appropriation resolution, Highway Capital Fund, the $240,000 that is being requested for appropriation there would be the balance of the cable franchise money that they would retain, consistent with what the Budget Committee's recommendation to you is. And that would be used to leverage federal and state monies for bridge replacement.
Commissioner Folks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This budget is the product of a dysfunctional process where this meeting is the first time the full commission will discuss this $160 million plus budget. There are 3 problems with this budget. First, the budget spends $3 million more than we take in. Second, the spending increase will outstrip the increase in income of most of our citizens. Third, we are spending more than the 2 Tennessee counties close to us in size, a lot more. Let me explain. I would ask the commissioners to refer to page 12 in the package, the chart on page 12. That chart shows a comparison of the actual spending by the county in fiscal year 12 with the proposed spending in the new budget. The upper right corner of the chart shows the inflation that has taken place between June of 2011, when the FY12 budget was put together, and now. According to federal figures, that inflation was 5.3%. Most of our citizens consider themselves lucky if their incomes keep pace with inflation. This chart shows that out of 45 county departments that we analyzed, just 10 of 45 have held their spending to less than inflation. They were, and we ought to name the people that did hold their spending, because they ought to be complimented. And they are the Development Department.
Thank you. Just if you'd use the department names.
That's what I'm doing.
Thank you.
They are the Development Department, County Buildings, County Clerk, Data Processing, Special Ed, Vocational Ed, Adult Ed, the School Regular Instruction Program, Maintenance of School Plant, and the School Transportation Departments. Those are the ones, the 10 out of the 45, that held their spending to less than inflation. The other 35 departments have spending increases that far exceed inflation, some 8, 9, 10 times inflation. And they're all listed there. Departments, to keep this brief, we'll just talk about the departments who spend more than double inflation, whose spending has gone up more than double inflation. The worst ones. And they include the county mayor, personnel, budgeting, purchasing, circuit court clerk, probation services, juvenile detention, sheriff's cars and communications equipment, animal control, parks and rec, industrial development, contributions to other agencies, chancery court, the school health services, director of schools, school financial fiscal services, the school central office and other, and early childhood education. They were more than double the increase in inflation. Overall, the county general fund will increase spending by 12.3% over that period, more than 2.3 times inflation. The schools are much closer to the mark, increasing their spending by 7.2%, or just 1.4 times inflation. I am sure that a few of these increases were truly needed. However, our citizens work hard to keep increases in their expenses to less than inflation because they have no choice. And they do not understand why 35 county departments cannot do the same. The citizens think the commission should demand that these departments do their part. The second problem with this budget is that our county is spending far more than the 2 counties that are closest to us in size, Sullivan County and Sumner County. I call your attention to the chart on page 10 of the package, which gives more detail in this area. As you can see at the top of the chart, the three counties are strikingly similar, especially in things like population outside the cities, road miles, and even number of arrests. The comparison is based on the FY13 audit reports, the most recent data available. The audit report numbers were then adjusted for the differences in the way counties account for certain items. Every adjustment is shown on the chart and can be traced back to each audit report. The last line in each section of the chart adjusts for the difference in population or road miles if necessary. As you can see, the results of this comparison are striking. Our Sheriff's Department spends $1.9 million, or 22% more than the average of the other two counties. Our jail spends $1.1 million, or 19% more than the average of the other two counties. On the next page, you'll see that our county spends $590,000 more on juvenile detention. We spend nearly double the average of the other counties on juvenile detention. Next, you can see that our county spends 157% more than the average of the other two counties on Parks and Rec. Maybe this is why this department has nearly $1 million of unspent money. Yet, we are going to give them another $650,000 in this new budget. We will spend more than triple what the other counties spend on industrial development. Yet our unemployment rate is not significantly different than the other counties. No wonder our citizens are asking, where's the beef in regard to all the money we spend on this activity? The list goes on. Blount County spends more than 3 times as much on sheriff's cars as other counties. If we need to give our employees raises, maybe we ought to buy a few less of those fancy Ford Expeditions for the big dogs. We spend 61% more on tires, 133% more on parts for these cars. These items alone add up to more than $4.7 million in excess spending by our county. If our spending equaled the average of the other counties on just these items, we could wipe out the entire deficit in the new budget and have money left over to provide raises for some of our hardworking county employees. Our citizens want to know why we are spending so much more than the 2 Tennessee counties closest to us. A functioning budget process would have asked and answered these questions long ago. But the mayor and this commission have failed to fix the process. I move that we restrict the amounts in the new budget to the average of what Sullivan and Sumner County spend on the items listed here.
Commissioner Folks moves to restrict the increases in the budget to the amounts of the average spent by Sumner and Sullivan County. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails.
Okay, then I have a second motion. I move that the budget line items be adjusted to FY12 actual spending plus the 5.3% inflation that has occurred since then.
Commissioner moves that the budget line items be set to the previous year 13-14 budget plus 5.3%. Is that correct, sir?
No, with respect, Mr. Chairman, it was FY12 actual spending.
Excuse me, FY12 actual expenditures.
Yes.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails for the lack of a second. Are the members ready for the question? Vote yes to adopt Resolution 1406A-012. Vote no not to adopt.
You have 15 yeses, 4 noes, and 2 absent.
15 yes, 4 no. The resolution is adopted pursuant to TCA 55105B2. This call meeting is now adjourned.